quick. Hey folks, Rich here. Welcome back to the RC Informer YouTube channel. I have a real special video for everybody today. This is about a decade in the making, okay? About 10 years of time that I've been trying to get FMS to make us a set of these P-51 Reno Racers, and it has finally happened. Ever since the original Strega came out, which I'll show you all kind of right here. This was the one that I did the original videos of when the first one came out some time ago. And I'll put links to that in the upper right hand corner of the screen that you guys can check those videos because they're still on the channel. But last year FMS decided to release a version 2 of the airplane with improved ball links, a 900 kV motor. It'll handle up to a 4,000 milliamp, I think, 4-cell pack. And it's now boosted up. I think it's a little more pitch in the prop too. Now it's boosted up to a little over 90 miles an hour right out of the box. And again, after having discussions with FMS last year, I said, hey, why don't we release a series of racers with the different paint jobs? And now it's come to pass, folks, and here we go. We have a re-release of Voodoo. We have a brand new Blue Thunder 2, Dago Red, which came out last year, and of course, one of our favorites here, Miss America. So I'm going to put links below where you guys can get these. And today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to do an unbox and assembly of the Miss America airplane. These planes just came in today, folks. I assembled these 3 and got them ready to go. Except for the receivers. I have one in the Dago Red because that was the original one that I had flying. And we're going to take a look now at the box and get a look at the specs on this thing so you guys can see all the features on this. I'm pretty pumped about this because, again, this is something that I have wanted to have make happen for, you know, quite some time, and now it's finally happened. We did a video on this on 3 of these racers. I think we had the Voodoo, the Dago one, and the Strega, I think, last year over at Imperial RC. I'm going to put a link to that video in the upper right hand corner of the screen you guys can check out. We had a blast flying them, and now that we've got 4 paint jobs, you know, to fly, it's going to be fun. This is going to be the kind of airplane you and your friends can buy, race around pylons, and it's just going to be a ton of fun. And we had like a ton of fun flying these things around. So just to zoom in on the box, you can see this thing is coming with the Reflex 2, okay, stabilizer. Now you can put your own stabilized receiver in there if you guys want to, but this will come with the Reflex as well. And then let me flip the box a little bit here, and you can see they show right here the 4 colors again that we just talked about that are on there. Same on the other side as well. The box is the same for all 4 airplanes, but what they've done is they've created, like they used to do in the old days, they have a little thing on the side of it there where they check off which airplane is actually you know, included in this particular box. So now I had also asked for a Galloping Ghost, and it hadn't happened yet, but we'll see. Maybe that'll be in another release if these all do fairly well. So a couple of the specs on this deal, guys. As you can see right here, I'll just throw them up here real quick. It's important to note right down here, an oversized power system with a 900 kV motor, a huge 80 amp brushless ESC, 9-gram digital servos, and then of course it has a very nice forward rake tilted landing gear, 4-bladed scale prop, flaps, real nice exhaust stacks, air intake, which is nice, and wing fences that actually keep this thing, you know, smooth and running around nicely. Actually, it keeps it from stalling out, wingtip stalls. It's a very well-behaved airplane. Oversized battery compartment, so they revamped that, again, up to a 4,000 pack. Metal trunnion gear. Ball links is the new thing too. They added ball links to this whole thing where the old one, you know, just had clevises and so forth. So, and that is it. It's a water-based paint. Let me back out on here, folks, and we will get a quick look at what this looks like. Now, I already took it out of the box because I didn't want to fool with that, and I'm going to show you what this thing looks like, you know, right out of the box. It comes nicely packaged. It assembles with about 7 screws, and this is the Miss America folks, that we are going to put together. Now, to get this thing together, it's real simple. You basically need a screwdriver, a 2mm metric socket, and that's really about it. Now, to get the stall fences on and to get the pitot tube on, you need a little glue. Foam tack is either that or some CA is the way to go, and it's real simple to do. So without further ado, guys, let's get this thing out of the box and we'll take a look at all the parts in it. As always, folks, if you like the content you're seeing here, please like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. It really helps us out if you use our links to purchase one below. It supports the channel. And when we get the flying demos of these out, because we're going to have all 4 out here flying, if I hadn't included some in the beginning here or at the end of it, I'll definitely have it in the upper right-hand corner. So stay tuned to the RC Informer YouTube channel. I'll be linking them here in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and they'll also be on the channel. So anyway, without further delay, let's get this thing out of the box and see what it's all about. Now, taking a hobby knife, I'm just going to cut through the tape here real fast and get on into this whole deal here. I'm going to cut this along. There's a little prop box here that holds the propeller in place. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can pull that out first. And that's the sort of prop box, which is kind of nice. It's nice that they give you that. It's actually kind of neat to store it in. And then we're going to cut along here, along this spar. We're going to cut right here because that's the tail spar. We're going to cut right along here. And the whole thing should come out from here. So we'll pull these out, get rid of all the foam. We'll get the spar out of place. That's your tail spar right there. We have a couple of spots here, a couple little compartments that hold some things. These are your wing fences that glue on real easily. And there's probably a couple more things in here. I just assembled all these back here, so I kind of am pretty familiar with it. This is your prop nut and a couple screws to assemble everything with. There's a cable in here. This is a USB-C cable. That's for if you need to reprogram your reflex stabilizer, which it actually comes with the gains preset. And then right here is our spinner. And this spinner is the first time I'm looking at this. This is the only one I think that they paint. They actually painted it blue to match the airplane, whereas the others you can see are chrome, and in fact they are a mirror finished chrome, so they really shine just like the real thing. But they did a super nice job with this. It's all ventilated and everything, and it matches the color, hopefully matches the color of the airplane. So we'll get the wing out of here and put this down on the table. We'll get the elevators out, and you can see these are just right in here. I'm pulling 2 of these out of their place. Really nice, and we'll take a closer look at those things in a second. And then we're going to pull all these chunks of foam out of here, and you can see how Miss America's sitting in there ready to go. Pull all these chunks of foam out, little protectors they have in here. They used to bag a lot of this stuff. Nowadays they have found that it's easy enough if you pack it correctly that you can do it without damaging it. And there is our fuselage. So I think that's about it. Let me take a quick look through here. Yep, I think that is about it, folks. So let's lay out everything nicely. We'll take a closer look at how it looks all laid out so you can get an idea of how few parts there are and how easy it is to assemble this thing. You can see here all the parts laid out. It's pretty simple. We have a fuselage that's ready to go with the motor, tail servos in there, speed controllers in here, ready to go. We've got the wing panel here with our servos installed and ready to go. They even did a nice job masking off, okay, right here where the wing fences go. So you're gluing, you know, your wing fence onto foam instead of onto paint. Got your 2 elevator halves right here. Again, the spinner. We've got again the tail spar, wing fences right here, which I'll pull out of the bag, and you can see those are real nice, ready to glue on. We've got a little parts bag pretty much here that has a couple parts to it. This is our prop nut with the screw for the spinner. We've got a few screws with ball link for the tail, because all there is 1 rod for the elevator. And then there's our wing tip pitot tube that goes on there with a little bit of glue. That's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. I'll put these aside. Here's our prop box. This is kind of nice. This is something that sometimes if I need to transport a prop without breaking it, I'll actually put it back in here sometimes. It's actually kind of a nice sort of installation. And they even painted the tip silver, as you can see on all the other ones, so that's all ready to go. And then the instruction manual. Instruction manual here is pretty straightforward. They've got some information here regarding the reflex system. Okay, so As I zoom in on that, you guys can see there's some reflex instructions they give you, and you can download you know, updates and stuff for the on the FMS website, and it shows you all that stuff. And then of course we've got the manual right here, and this is for all 4 airplanes, because all 4 airplanes, you know, are essentially the same airplane, just with a different paint job on it, really. So let's take a close look at all the parts here, folks. You can see the main fuselage. This is really slick. They did a fantastic job on these. Again, I just put all these 3 together back here, and I put this plane together before the new version of it, and it's really slick. You can see it's got nice detail all the way around it. They painted the exhaust stacks here sort of like a metallic, kind of a graphite look, and you can see it's got good rivet detail all the way around it. It's got some foam beads still kind of blowing around it, but the paint job is just awesome on this thing. And you've got your tail push rod there with your ball link on there. It's all foam hinges around, but they're all laminated as well. We got our plug in here for our elevator, where our 2 screws, one is going to go through this hole right here, and the other screw is going to go through the hole here on the underside with a spar going through the middle. So real simple. There is our elevator servo, our tail wheel with exhaust, okay, right out the cow flap there out the back. So it's sort of a fixed position flap. Again, a little bit of foam beads around here. And then our ESC, which I'm going to talk to you about securing that, because it floats a little bit and you really don't want that floating. So I'll put a little Velcro there and we'll talk about that. And then all 4 of our wing attachment points there are all metal threads in there, so they're all brass. You can see the brass in there shining back. And then we've got our low profile, you know, exhaust scoop in there. So, and then on the top we've got our canopy here, a little piece of tape, which is pretty standard for FMS. It's magnetic here, so it lifts off. Got a magnet in the back, tongue and groove up in the front, and that's what secured it at. One thing I kind of didn't like is they took the pilot out and made it black, but hey, you know, it is what it is. The thing's going so fast, you're really hardly even going to see that. Let me flip this around. You're not really going to see the pilot, but I did like the pilot in there. I thought that was kind of a nice touch. You can see we got our elevator servo all the way back in there, and it has an adjustable, if I can get this one wire out of the way, which is in the way, it has an adjustable easy connector there, so it's easy to adjust the length of that elevator rod, or sorry, that's the rudder rod, as you need to. So elevator servo's all the way in the back. So, and again, reflex is pre-mounted, ready to go. I'll show you a good position to put your regular receiver in there. Again, you do not want to use a stabilized receiver with this, because this is a stabilizer. So this with the reflex is meant to use a non-stabilized receiver, so very important. So just any old receiver will work. 6 to 7 channels, 7 channel preferred, and then you got your battery straps, your whole compartment and everything all in there. And we've got our wire here. They did use let me back off a little bit, they did put an EC5 connector on there. So some smaller batteries don't use one that big, but I'll probably just use an adapter for that. So this is meant for high performance, so high C rating batteries probably work just fine in this thing. So, and that's about it, folks, for the fuselage. It's pretty nice how that all is done in there. They've got this thing perfected. When the first version came out, it had some little quirks to it, but they've got it perfected, and it's just real easy to get this thing going. So next up, we've got the main wing. Let me put the fuselage right over here. The wing is also perfected. In fact, one of the things I really like about it is they've got this really nice junction box right in the center. So, and it's very clean. In the old days, some of these things used to sort of float around, but now they have it secured kind of nicely in place. They may have used even a little bit of contact cement or something, and it can be removed, but it's in there very nicely. Everything's wired together real well. All we got to do is use a cutter to just cut away that that zip tie there. But it's got the gear, the flaps, and the ailerons wires all bundled there nicely, just really ready to go. So it's a very nice finished product, nice finished package, and our wingtip fences are going to go on there as well. So some foam beads floating around, that's to be expected, and you can see the top surface of that wing and just how nice it is. Now this thing has really nice forward raked landing gear, and right here, folks, it has a really nice doubler, so it's very strong. Even as long as you got low cut grass, this is actually a great grass field airplane. If it's tall cut grass or it's real thick, you know, even this plane doesn't nose over that well like some warbirds do. So let's take a look at the bottom here. You can see all ball links all the way around. You can see our retracts have metal trunnions in both of them. You can see right here. I'll put a little bit of foam tack on my E-clip there for my landing gear. And then nice plastic doublers, both here and here. So 4 screws, get this wing in place, and that's pretty much it for that. So here's a quick look at your ball links, and you can see how nice the fit and the finish is. The trailing edge, that's pretty impressive if you look at the trailing edge and how nicely this whole thing, man, fuselage is in the way, sorry about that. It's nice to see how well that trailing edge lines up. If I can get that, here, let me see if I can go this way, whether that's probably what the thing is. Let me get it to focus on the wing there. There you go. You can see how nice that trailing edge kind of all lines up. I'm having a hard time getting this to focus on there, but it's all nice and straight. Nothing's bending, nothing's bowed. You know, your ailerons and your flap are nice and straight. Surface condition is real nice. Again, nice clean finish all the way around. You can see it kind of shining back on you as I turn this thing. But there's a quick look again at the ball links of this thing. They have nice tape on the underside to cover everything up. All pre-installed and all ready to go. So I'll talk more about the ball link position and the horn position as I fly the airplane, but overall, folks, really nice fit and finish on the wing panel. They did a spectacular job on this whole thing. The others that I put together, same thing. They're all in real nice shape overall. And then here's our horizontal. We'll take a look at that. These are going to fit together with you know, spar through the middle. And they did a heck of a nice job with this thing in getting this little kind of D adapter. And I'll show you, give you a close look at that. Here's the underside, okay? And here's the top side of this thing. And they've got really beautiful doublers here, and they have this really nice D-shaped kind of coupler that couples the two sides of what used to be a torque rod. Now it's sort of a torque tube, and it fits in there right nice. And there's a single screw that's going to go right in here to kind of hold them together. And then on the underside, these are your main screws that hold it in place. So this one right here, this connector right here, is just to keep these two halves from separating. But very nicely engineered. You can see it's a precision fit, and all we have to do is just, you know, put that spar between, you know, into the fuselage, and then we'll mount these two halves. So spinner and prop, same kind of deal. Real nice fit and finish. That fits together real nice. This used to be a silver spinner. They just painted it blue. And you can see how this thing really is a nice tight fit. And you watch when you put this thing on here, how nicely there's no gap in that prop and that hub. See how nice it is? This plane, again, they've been producing for about a decade, but they've perfected it, and they've made all the fit and finish of it perfect. And again, you've got a really nice hex drive right here that has a positive lock right there on your prop drive. So they did a beautiful job with this. And then the parts bag, or here's your, well, we looked at the stall fences. These are just going to plug kind of right into the wing. And in fact, those simply, they have an angle to them. You want to make sure you get them on there correctly. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what that looks like. You see there is a bevel to it. If you look right here, it has an angle to it right there. So they are side specific. You do want to kind of be careful of that. Make sure that they are side specific and at angles, you know, kind of going away with sort of an outward sweep. So, and simply done, you know, you can look right at this thing. In fact, I'll put this side on that you guys can see right here. I'll just throw this on real quick. All you have to do is, there's some spikes right here. Okay, and you're going to line up the front of that edge. This is how simple this thing is to put on there. You're going to line that up, and then there's some slots actually right here. You can see there's actually a couple holes that actually line it up. And as you put this on, you want to make sure that you're lining it up so it's not touching the aileron. Okay, you want to make sure you can see that little gap right there. You want to make sure that as you press this in place, and I'll go ahead and I'll put this one on, and you want to sight it from sort of the top as you do this. And as you press it down, those little teeth right there, those little spikes, are going to sort of just bite right down into there. And as you push it on, which I'm going to do from the top so I'm not screwing it up, as you push this down into place, those just bite right into the foam. And then that's it. It just kind of stays in place there. Now you're going to glue this, but this is your initial fit of it. And you do want to make sure that when you get that on there, and I'm going to try and show this in such a way that you guys can see, you want to make sure there's a gap, okay, right there between the plastic and the aileron, okay? You don't want this thing, you know, pushed over where it's striking your aileron. And you're going to actually glue it, okay, to the outboard portion of the wing, to this section. So you have plenty of gap there between the plastic and the aileron. So that's going to get glued in place, okay? The other thing we're going to do too is the pitot tube goes on right there. It's real simple. And I can glue this on later, but you can see how nice of a fit this is. It just literally just pushes right on. It presses in place. And then again, you're going to use CA or you're going to use foam tack, whatever your preference is, but it's that simple to get those details on. And we'll repeat this, the same thing, you know, for the other stall fence. And again, use your preferred glue. If you guys like CA, use CA. If you like foam tack, which is probably what I'm going to use my foam tack on it. That's really all you need. So the last of the bags right here. Okay, we're looking at a really nice aluminum, okay, prop nut. Okay, and then you have one screw for your prop nut, but the prop nut just tightens onto the spinner, and you've got a single screw that goes right through the top, okay, and that's going to hold your spinner in place. So that's really all there is to that. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And then we've got our screws, our nuts, our bolts, and I'm going to kind of take that out and show it to you guys. I'm just going to sort of dump it right into my hand here, and you can see what there is. Now they give you spares. That's the cool thing about this, is they give you a bunch of spares. So really we only need 4 wing screws. They often will give you 5, and that's these main 3mm metrics. These black screws, okay, you only really need 2 of those to put the elevator on, and then there's 2 of these little teeny tiny ones right here, and these little tiny ones are, you only really need 1 of those. There's 2 that are included, but that's the one you're going to join the elevator halves with. So, and that is it, folks. The manual goes through all this stuff. It's pretty straightforward, okay, the way that they put it in the manual. This is exactly how they're going to show it to you guys. It's, again, this is one of those things you almost don't even need the manual to put this thing together, but you can see right here, you've got your parts right here that we just went through, and they've got you putting your wing on first, your elevator on. I'm probably going to do the horizontal first, just because I like to get the tail on the plane first. And then we're going to put our push rod, you can see right here, and then we're going to glue on, they show you right here, your pitot tube and your wing fences and all that. And that's pretty much it, folks. It goes over CG and all that stuff in here. Let's take a look at what they put the CG at right there. It looks like they show about 70 to 80 millimeters back. That sounds about right. That's where the leading edge, you know, of the wing meets the fuselage. That sounds about right. And that's really about it, folks. So without further delay, folks, let's go ahead and start putting this thing together piece by piece. We'll show you how fast it actually goes together. Now the first thing we're going to do to get the tail on this thing is we're going to put this up on a stand of some sort. I'm using my cruise-in stand. They're made in the USA. I think John's Inn may or may not be still making these, but I like to support some of the US products whenever I can. And for this particular airplane, often what I will also use is an Ernst stand, okay, to mount these things with. But in this particular case, with the Ernst stand being a little short, it actually can bite into the wing to fuselage fairing, this thing back here, and it doesn't really like, so it can kind of ding that up. So that's why I try to use a flatter mounted stand like the cruising stand. So you kind of use what you use to kind of fit the purpose, or for whatever it is specifically that you're doing. So this is pretty simple, folks, how you get this tail on this thing. Let me raise this, or actually let me lower it. We're just going to take the rod here, and we're going to put this right through the hole. Actually, let me go through the back side here, and you can see how simple this is. Now, what I found is when you're mounting this thing with the last 3 airplanes I just installed, as this thing goes together, sometimes it has a tendency to run into this lip and kind of bend that lip up. So what seems to be a helpful thing to do is, before you install this, grab your finger along this thing, and I'm going to kind of show you as best I can how this works. If you lift up on this edge a little bit, just kind of flare this edge. It's very thin foam here. If you push on it and just sort of massage it a little bit and get that edge to flip up, what you'll notice is that when you plug in, okay, your elevator, it will accept into that hole better. Because sometimes it'll grab that edge and it'll start pulling it in, or it won't fit in there real well. So I'll do the same thing. pretty much to both sides, and I'm going to kind of get close in on this thing. Same thing with here. I'm going to just push kind of down on this. And this is just a technique, folks. You don't have to do this, but I found that sometimes the opening is tight, and this thing doesn't want to fit in there unless you flare the outer edge open. You can do the same thing with the bottom side. Okay, so it fits in a little bit better. It's just soft foam, so it's not, you know, it's not a big deal to do that. Let me flip this around. Again, technique, folks. Just a technique I've picked up on actually assembling this airplane over the last decade. So here we go. Let me get that flared out, okay? And then we'll get this back on the stand. See if I can get this on here right. There we go. And then let's get this in place again. Let me put this through this side because I can see it better. We'll go through here. And then this should go right into place, and it should fit just a little bit better. Perfect. So now as I get this in, it doesn't take that lip and kind of tuck it under. It actually stays on the outside. And we'll do the same thing here with the other side without dropping the thing. Let me get this in place, and we'll take a look at that. Again, this goes in here. We'll slide that on. We're going to line up the little D-ring deal right in here. So I'll get close on that so y'all can see that a little bit better. There we go. So we get that D-ring lined up, and our holes will line up. And you see as I push this in, you see how it fits in nicely, and it doesn't tuck this wing to fuselage fairing or this fillet. It sometimes, again, grabs it and pulls it in, and it gets all kind of dinged up. So just flare it out a little bit with your finger, and you'll see that the thing fits like just perfectly in place. Now, since I have a pretty good vantage point on this thing right now, in fact, I'm going to flip it this way. Let me flip it around this way so y'all can see what I'm doing with it here. I'm going to try to angle this so y'all can see that exact spot. But you can see that hole right there. And this is where we're going to take that little tiny screw, okay? And the holes are lined up perfectly, and that's what I like. They've perfected this airplane to the point where all of these things, all these holes, everything lines up beautifully. So, and they gave you an extra screw for every spot that you have here. So you can see here, I'm just going to go ahead and screw this in. I'll get this out of the way so y'all can see it. And you don't have to make it super tight, just get it so it flush mounts with it. And now we've got both halves connected. Now you can do this in whatever order you want. I'm just kind of doing it this way so y'all can see, you know, how that goes together. And then we've got the underside holes right here, okay, which I'm gonna try to move this a little bit because I've got a lot of stuff in the way here. So let me angle this back a little bit. Get this centered for you. Actually, let me move it this way, and I'll take my camera and I'll zoom it so it fits, so it goes the right direction. There we go. And now we're going to take these little black screws. There's 2 of them right here. So we just stick that in there, and we'll tighten that in. See if you guys can see that okay. And that'll bite right into that little flange that kind of sticks out there. So that goes in really nice and tight, and you'll feel it bottom out. And it should not go through the top side. It'll definitely bottom out in that plastic, and you can feel it. Yeah, it's totally tight there. So then I'm going to get the bottom one on. Same thing. See if I can do that. If I can see down in there. It's tougher to do this on camera than you think, guys. So, and again, they gave you a spare on these too. So I noticed with all the airplanes that I just assembled here, they all had pretty much a spare screw for everything. So throw those screws in your inventory, you know, and use them for something later on. So this should tighten up nice and tight, and it looks like it's bottoming out right there. It's a nice tight fit. You can't beat that, and that's pretty much for getting the tail on. Now we do have the horn, which I'm going to use here, the second hole that you guys can probably see here. Let me lower my table here a little bit, get this thing to fit in place. And then I'm going to put this in, I think it was the second hole if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I can get that lined up in place. Yeah, that's kind of where I want it. And I think that's about where I had it. Now, this seems to be a little short, so I'm going to unscrew, you know, kind of get my ball link screwed outward a little bit because it's a little bit on there. If I remember, all of them were on there pretty tight. It almost seems like the rod ought to be maybe another 5 millimeters long. But just to start with, I'm going to kind of stick it right here. Let me get get this thing. It looks like this is angled forward just a little bit, so let me pull back on that just a bit. I think that's about right. Let me back this off a little more. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit low on rod. Now, if the rod seems too short, you know, then you might need a longer rod. That can happen sometimes. But let me get this snapped into place. In fact, I'm going to grab a ball link tool here real quick and snap that into position. So let me find that thing. And after finding my ball link tool, we can actually finally snap this in position. So we'll pop that in place, and that's it. That's pretty much it for getting the tail on the airplane. And we'll adjust that later once we power up the airplane. But from here on out, we'll go ahead and we'll get the wing in position. Now, before securing the wing in position, one thing I noticed about these airplanes, and if you get in on the underside here, which I'm going to show you guys here, let me raise this up just a little bit. The speed controller seems to sort of float around a little bit in there, and you can see front to back. It kind of moves a lot, and you can see here, I'm just going to flip it around, you can see that's the big 80 amp speed controller that's in there. It's pretty impressive. What I did is to keep this all the way in here, because I like to keep this up towards the front, because you know what happens is the air comes in via the air scoop, the intake right here, and it goes over through this thing and then out all the way out the tail, and then all the way out to here where it comes out of the cooling area. So you've got air coming in here, going over your speed controller, and I really don't want this big speed controller flopping around like this. So here's my solution to it, and you can see pretty simply it's already on there. What I did is I took a little bit of Velcro and I stuck it on my speed controller there, and then taking another piece, what I did is I'm going to put it on the inside, right all the way down onto the inside of this thing. Now it's kind of hard to see that. I'm going to kind of maneuver it around so you can see where it's going, and it's real hard doing this on camera to show you this, guys. But by putting it on the inside here, okay, that inside edge, I can now Velcro this thing in place and still get it out of there, and that will keep it okay, they'll keep the whole thing from sliding around. Now, by pulling the speed controller out just a little bit, I can kind of get my finger sort of under this edge. Again, this is just a suggestion, folks, and I've done this with all of my racing Mustangs like this, and using my pinky under there, and you can kind of see I'm sticking it up in there just so I can get that Velcro, okay, secured on the inside edge of that, okay, and you can kind of see it right through there. So now I can push my speed controller all the way in here, use that Velcro to sort of secure it in place, and now it's not going to do any of that sliding anymore. It's going to stay in place, and if I have to, I can just kind of tug on it and I can release that Velcro and get it undone. But at least now it's not going to move, and I still have it sort of in the free stream of air. So with it in place like this, now we're going to go ahead and secure the wing in place. Securing the wing in place is a super easy process. Again, it's only 4 screws, but you want to make sure that this box, before you put this thing in place, you want to make sure that all those servo leads are pretty secure in there. So give them a good tug down in there. You can check the security of all your connections. I will always check, again, all of my metal leads and tighten them, as you guys have probably seen in my videos in the past. I'll go ahead and I'll tighten up those connections, and I already did that. These are all nice and tight, and they're ready to go. Taking a pair of flush cutters, what I'm doing is just very carefully, without cutting the wires, I'm just going to cut that thing off of there, get that zip tie out of there, and then we're going to pull these wires straight. And then once we get them straight, we're just going to feed them down in there. Now, it's a good idea when you're doing this to take your canopy off, so you can kind of see through there and you can feed through, because there's a hole kind of going right through the whole center of that fuselage. So what we're going to do is by taking these wires, putting this right down on top, we're going to feed these right down into that hole. I can put my hand underneath, grab all 3 of those wires pretty much at the same time, and then we're just going to feed this thing back in place. Now the additional wires, you've got to keep an eye on those and make sure you're not pinching those. Just make sure they go in there. There's a huge hole in there, so they'll all fit in there easy. And then I just sight it down in there, make sure all the wires are going in place, and it looks like I'm not biting anything, and then it just fits on there like a glove. It's perfect. So on this side of the airplane, you can see I've got my 3 wires that I pulled through, and then we're just simply going to screw this in place. Super simple airplane to assemble. I'm just going to line this up so everybody can get in on that and see what that's going to look like. We'll zoom in, and there's our 4 holes. There's our doublers. We're going to go ahead and take our 4 screws right here. We're going to drop one each in. They're all they're beveled edge screws, and the holes there are beveled. So, you know, you can just literally just drop the 4 of these screws in place. Okay, and they'll tighten. Now, you don't want to over tighten these things. I'm going to take my 2mm metric socket. We're just going to put those down in there. Tighten them up, spin them a bit, and you can feel them biting down. They go right in. They're sort of conical at the end, so it funnels its way sort of down in there. Again, they've done a really pretty supreme job at the factory of making an easy to assemble airplane. So you want to tighten this to the point where, you know, these things are tightening down. You can feel them, but if you get them too tight, you'll notice it's too tight if the foam here starts to kind of bend and flex. Once you do that, you have to stop. You don't want to go too much, because you can compress the foam too much to the point where, you know, you start bending it in there, you start distorting the foam, and it kind of looks awful. So using your hand on the side on this edge, as you tighten this, you can kind of feel the seam coming together. So if I put my hand kind of right down in there, you can kind of feel that as you tighten it, they're coming together. And just again, make sure you're not distorting the foam on this end, that's all. And I'll put my thumb on this side right down here, same thing. And then once you feel like you got it tight enough, you stop. You don't have to go too far with it. And that's pretty much it, folks, for getting your wing on there. And now all we're up to really is just getting the prop and getting the spinner in place. Okay, now we've arrived at the business end of this thing. It's just getting the prop and spinner on. It's pretty simple to get this in place, and I'm just going to put it on here, folks, just for sort of, you know, demo purposes here. Keep in mind that when you put this thing in place, you don't want to power it up. Take your prop and spinner off before you power up the airplane. I'm just putting this on just to kind of show it to you guys and how simple it is to get on here. Again, hex drive to hex drive. Just put this baby right on there. Take your prop and spinner, or prop, put that in place and line it up here with these little kind of curved edges that match the bottom of the airfoil. And then our prop nut is just going to go in place. Now, something to keep in mind about some of these prop nuts. You tighten this thing, okay, by putting a wrench through here, okay, a screwdriver or something, and turning it and getting it tight. The only problem that I've noticed with some of these is as you tighten this thing, okay, it comes up right about to where the hole is. So the actual prop nut itself, or the prop bolt area, the threaded area, will protrude sometimes into this hole. So as you're tightening this thing up, it can actually lock your tool into place, which basically means that the prop shaft is a little bit too long. So again, I can see it kind of poking through there. So as I tighten this down, okay, it might lock onto your tool here that you're using to lock it up. So what I'm probably going to do with some of these, and I'm not going to do it right now at the moment, but I'll probably take a Dremel tool, or I'll take a sanding bar or something, and I will sand this down and take maybe 1 millimeter or 2 off the edge of it. Just a little flaw from the factory, but not a big deal. But just keep in mind, if it's protruding out too long and you're trying to tighten this with your tightening tool, with your screwdriver, or whatever it is you have, the screw might be protruding too far into that, so it could lock your tool in place. So, but for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to stick this thing in place, get it on there. You can see it's a glove tight fit. We take our 3mm metric screw with our 2mm socket, and we put that thing in place. So I'm going to tighten that up, and we should be good to go. And again, folks, don't power up your airplane with your propeller in place. Take your propeller off, especially for the first time, you know, you power it up, and then, you know, set up a throttle cut on there with a switch so it's not dangerous. So you don't want this thing coming to life the first time you power the darn thing up. So anyway, that's really it, folks. What I'm going to do is go ahead and put a servo tester on there. We're going to power it up and just get the landing gear down, and we'll take a look at you know, what it looks like on its wheels. Now, using just a simple servo tester, I'm just going to plug this thing in. Servo driver, whatever you have will work well. I'm going to plug this right into the landing gear channel, okay, and it should power that up, and we should be able to get our landing gear down. I can hear it cycling there, and there it is. Works perfectly right out of the box, really nice. Let me go ahead and put it up one more time for you, and then we'll go ahead and cycle that. Seems to be working beautifully. No complaints there, and we'll unplug it. So that's really it, folks, for the assembly of this thing. Let me get this off the table. We'll put it down here, and we'll take a look at it. So it looks really nice on its wheels. Again, that's the basic assembly of this. We'll put a receiver in it and get it out to the field and fly it for everybody. But you can see this thing just looks fantastic. I mean, it has such a good look to it. Compared to all the other three, it's just a super nice model. Now, what I'm going to show you guys is a layout on the inside that I did with my, which works really well if you're using the reflex stabilizer that you can see in there. I'm going to show you my setup right now that I have in my Dago Red, because my Dago Red was the first of the V2s, okay, that I was flying and had set up. So let me come around to the front, and I'll show you guys what this looks like. And this has been a real good setup for me all along. And what I'm going to do is flip it this way so y'all can see how that looks in there. I'm going to grab my zoom there, and you can see all I did was use a simple, simple 7 or 8 channel receiver I think I have in there, and I ran one antenna right along this edge. And I took another one and I ran it along the back here. You can see all the way along here. So I got one horizontal, okay, going across, I guess, the lateral axis. And then I got one going along the longitudinal axis, so they're 90 degrees to each other. But you can see, as long as you have a slim receiver, you know, just one that lays flat, even if you have them coming out of the top, that's pretty much the configuration that seemed to work really well for me. And you can see I Velcroed that receiver, you know, in place. That's an 8-channel receiver, it looks like I have in there, and that's pretty much your cockpit setup, you know, that you want to use in this thing. So anyway, folks, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's take a look at some of the other airplanes. I'll give you a look at all the others and show you some of the specifics on the rest of the fleet here. Now, I decided to clean the tabletop off a bit so you guys can really see this thing up close. This is a Sharp airplane. They did a phenomenal job putting this thing together. I just put together all 4 of these things, okay, and it's sort of in one sitting, and the fit and finish on them all was just outstanding. I really didn't have you know, really any kind of a glitch with putting these things together at all, other than that spinner, that, you know, that shaft is a little bit too long, so if you have to grind that down, you know, so be it. But that's relatively a small thing. I think this Miss America is really sharp. The colors on this thing are just very contrasty, and you can see how this thing, it really stands out. It's really nice. It's got a lot of good color to it. Real impressed. Again, fit and finish was outstanding, and this will just give you sort of a view of everything. It looks like the newer ones, they painted the exhaust stacks, again, sort of a metallic, and I'll get in on that, sort of like almost like an engine metal or a gun metal type thing, and just really nice overall. So let's take a look at some of the other ones. I'm going to kind of trade off a few of these. You guys have, I think, pretty much seen the Dago Red. They did a great job, folks, on this this Voodoo. I mean, the old Voodoo that I have videos of on the channel, and I'll put links to those in the upper right hand corner so you guys can see the older Voodoo flying, which is essentially the same airplane, but obviously it's got more power in it now. But what they did with this one is look at the tail. In fact, it's kind of wreaking havoc with my camera. That green is like a neon, and it just stands out with the purple. This one is sharp. This is one we had Gab flying. He'll probably be flying this because this is kind of his speed. And you can see it's got the logo underneath under the scoop that says Pure Guts. So very cool overall. Nice bright yellow underneath. Contrasty, you know, checkerboard paint job all along the side. Just really slick. So real impressed. That mirror on the spinner is awesome. You can see it's actually mirroring back pretty much everything that it kind of picks up there. So, but really sharp airplane all the way around. Very cool. Those wingtips are just glowing on my camera. I can just see it on the screen. The older Voodoo, they used sort of a darker green. This one they went with a super bright neon greenish, and it is just awesome. I mean, what a slick what a slick bird that this thing is. Very, very impressive color. So this is one you're going to love it or you're going to hate it, but man, it's really sharp. Blue Thunder has a couple of different, one or two items to it that are kind of unique to it. Not too much, but hit the top there. Let's get this one back in its place there. You can see here, one thing they did add to this one, which is kind of interesting, and these stickers came with it separate, but it actually had prop stickers on it. You could see it had those just kind of oval prop stickers. I'm not familiar with that brand of prop, but I went ahead and stuck those on there, and it looks pretty slick. If you are flying in an area, okay, where you have a lot of trees in the background, this plane will stand out like a sore thumb, a lot like Strega, because the paint job compared to Strega is almost the same, meaning that the center line of the airplane, you can see, is a dark color, but the wings are bright white, so it stands out really great against a dark background. So it kind of depends on where you're flying. If you're flying somewhere where you've got a lot of sky, this tends to blend in a little more with it, but the contrast of the blue and the white will still stand out. But against a background, a dark background, I mean, this thing will look, you know, just phenomenal. So it's got a couple logos on the wing. You can see there, 352, and the Tempest logos on there. You can see, pretty cool. And then the engine itself on the cowling, Blue Thunder 2, baby. Really cool. It's got all the authentic kind of decals on it. Just super, super cool. I'm impressed with it. Very nice. And then there's our tail on there. A lot of these planes, folks, didn't actually have the racing canopy, okay, and the reduced air scoop, but FMS made them all that way. They made the racer version of it, mostly because it's a little less expensive to produce it. Otherwise, they need to change the molds to make it perfectly scale. So they use the racing style where, you know, the tails are cut off slightly. It has the racing razorback canopy, and it has the you know, low profile scoop on the underside. Now this airplane on the underside is almost totally white, and that's sort of the downside to it. But again, if you're flying against a dark background, you know, that's what you're gonna see as an all white underside. So I just wanted to show everybody that so you guys can see, you know, the difference on these. I still haven't glued the wingtip fences and the pitot tube on this, but that's just to kind of show you how nice of a fit everything is. So they act like little sort of vortex generators as well. They keep a lot of airflow over your tip, and that's why these airplanes, coming into land, you're landing nice and slow, they don't tip stall. They're stable all the way in, even at nice slow speed. So you guys will see that all in the videos. It's really neat seeing that yellow and red stripe, kind of wavy stripe down the side. It really is pretty sharp. So Blue Thunder 2, you gotta love it. So, and then of course, guys, we've got the Dago Red. I'll put this one back here, and let me put this in place. This has such a cool bright paint job on it, which I do have videos of this already on the channel, folks. We did a live on the unboxing when it was first released, and that's when I asked FMS, why don't we make a series of these? Why don't you guys make a series? It would be awesome. And sure enough, that's what they did. But this has a two-tone red. You can see it's kind of a burgundy on the underside, red on the underside, and then it's got just this colorful white, blue, purple, yellow, just kind of flame going down the back of it. It just looks really sharp. With that mirrored cowl, it really stands out. And then of course, your number on the, do they have one on the underside? Yeah, there's a huge 4 on the underside that matches the tail. So, and that's sort of a nice graphic that they sort of stuck on there. Now I broke my pitot tube off of that because, you know, there's only 2 kinds of pitot tubes on planes, guys, those that have broken off and those that will. But that's your color scheme there, folks, for your Dago Red. So really cool, really nice paint job all the way around. And that about sums it up, folks. Let me get Miss America back here. We'll put the Dago Red back where it is. Once again, folks, really nice airplanes. They did a fantastic job. I'm going to put links again in the description below where you guys can get these. They're probably going to go pretty fast. I think they're making them in kind of limited supply. So, you know, check it out down below. I'll put the links there. It supports the channel if you get one through our link, so we appreciate that. Awesome bird, folks. We love flying this thing. Again, it's a decade-old airplane, but this is improved. Ball links, 900 kV motor, bigger battery area. bigger ESC. I think it started with a 60, then went to a 70. Now we're at an 80 amp speed controller, so it can take some pounding. When I put in the early days, when I put a 2-blade prop, I made my own 2-blade prop conversion for this. It did 104 miles an hour, went over 100 easily. So you can do all kinds of fun stuff with this. It's just an awesome airplane. And now that we've got all these fantastic colors back here, it's nice that you can get a different one and everybody can fly them. So anyway, I hope you guys like this video. Hopefully more to come. I'm still working on a Galloping Ghost, and maybe even again bringing back the Strega if I can get FMS to kind of do that. That would be a cool thing. If they're popular, maybe they'll do it. So, but for now, we have 4 racers now to choose from, folks, which is pretty darn awesome. Again, Miss America, Dago Red, Voodoo, and Blue Thunder 2. So I want to thank FMS Models for listening to us and giving us some really nice, super nice airplanes to fly. I'm real impressed that they kind of went to the length to make us these really nice models like this. So anyway, guys, if you haven't already, you like the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. You'll get advised or notified when we put out more videos like this one. So anyway, guys, appreciate y'all watching. Thanks for watching RC Informer once again, and as always, we'll see y'all next time.